I have a range, and if I stray too far from my range, my voice is going to let me know. But I have some things to talk about that may or may not cause me to strain my vocal range again. We'll see how far we can go. We'll see how far I can get away with it. But the NFL wants to be fun again. The NFL misses the time when it used to be fun. It's not fun anymore. I mean, it is and it isn't, right? The actual football is crazy. And to me, I feel a little bit bad that the politics and so forth have obscured what has been a legitimately exciting NFL season. And I would say that this NFL season is more exciting than the NFL season that we had last year and more exciting than the NFL season we had the year before, where we just got bad football games all the time. I think the NFL has gone through a lot and made a lot of emphasis on putting a lot of really good games in prime time, right? Fascinating games, close games, games with storylines. The NFL has gone out of its way. It's bent backwards to give the consumer a great product. League's just not fun anymore, though, because we have all of these opinions around the football, right? Which to me, I just thought would never happen because so many people want to usually ignore the issues around the football. I never once imagined for any point in my life that people would actually take armament up against the issues around the football, right? Which are the issues around why players are kneeling, which we have gone into so many times before that really we don't have to get into that again. It's you know where I stand on that. I think players should be able to kneel. I think that the reason that they're kneeling is to protest police brutality. And if you make it anything that's not that, you're wrong. So I could go down that rabbit hole again. We really don't have to. But here's the thing. The fans who believe that kneeling players are disrespecting the flag, even though they've gotten permission from military members to kneel, whatever. The players the fans that think that are boycotting the NFL, don't want anything to do with the NFL, turning in their NFL Sunday ticket. They're not paying for that. They're getting rebates on that from DirecTV. Ratings for the NFL are down. But I also should point out that there's a group of people, before those people started protesting, there was a group of people that started protesting the NFL because Colin Kaepernick still does not have a job in the NFL. And if you're the NFL, you are actually caught in a sandwich of sadness. You are caught in a sandwich of misery because what happened is the NFL tried not to offend anybody, right? And in so doing, offended absolutely everyone, right? Like if Colin Kaepernick had been signed to a team, nobody kneels. Nobody kneels. You don't have the mass kneeling of NFL players. You don't, right? Like that just doesn't happen. But the NFL did not care what those fans thought, right? And so they offended those people. Then the president said basically all of the things that he said, and he is a crazy person. So he just says whatever, whenever it pops into his head, even though it has nothing to do. He was trying to endorse another political candidate's run for Senate and literally sabotage that. That man did not win that race, by the way. He lost. And Lamar Alexander, I believe is his name, is poor Lamar, lost, right? Just didn't get any benefit from that because, of course, Trump showed up to endorse him and made the endorsement somehow about Trump. The NFL reacts to that, and players kneel, and they all kneel, and lots of them kneel. And now you've got a lot of fans who are upset about the kneeling. So you have fans that are upset that players are kneeling, and you have fans that are upset that players are being punished in a sort of way, specifically Colin Kaepernick, really, being punished for not kneeling. And because the NFL decided that it wouldn't take a stance on either issue, because I think that is the NFL's biggest problem. It's losing money on both sides, right? Like you can make it all about Americans aren't going to stand for the disrespect of the flag, but Americans also aren't going to stand for ignoring their cries for help either. It's just not going to happen. And so we have a situation where the NFL is caught in a sandwich of misery. They have tried not to offend people who are offended by players kneeling. right? Because you have certain owners on certain teams going, well, no, I won't allow this. I won't stand for this. The Dolphins and the Cowboys, most notably. And then you have other owners that are like, no, it's fine. Arthur Blank of the Falcons, he thinks that as long as the players kneel respectfully, nobody is doing anything gesturally that's inappropriate, right? Like don't give the flag a finger or something. Like that's horrible. Don't do that. But as long as it's in the bounds of what is respectful, Arthur Blank has no problems with it. And so you've got a league that, again, they didn't pick anything because the NFL tries to appeal and tries to pander to everyone. The problem is, by trying to pander to everyone, they have absolutely offended all parties involved. And the NFL wants very desperately to be fun again in a season where the football is actually more fun than the football has ever been. The football has never been this fun. We've got unexpected turns of events. We've got a clear, distinct set of good teams and bad teams. We've got upsets. We've got close games. We've got young emerging stars, right? Wentz and Prescott and Goff. We've got everything an NFL season could actually want to be exciting. We've got players that are, the running game is back in the NFL, right? That you could be the Jacksonville Jaguars and legitimately turn around and hand Leonard Fournette the ball 100 times a game, and he is somehow successful. We've got everything. We've got everything you could ask for in an NFL season, and somehow we have managed to not make the NFL fun, which I thought was impossible. I really did. I didn't think that there would be anything in football that would stop people from watching football. I was wrong about that one. Right? We have a problem with the fact that the league won't sign Colin Kaepernick, and we have a problem with the fact that players kneel during the anthem. But the sport that the players are playing is literally killing them. And that wasn't the thing we took issue with. I never imagined, because I thought if the guys playing the sport are being killed by the sport, if that can't stop you from watching, nothing can stop you from watching. And I just think that we just need to take a look at like the moral barometer of America and maybe get that checked. Something feels really weird and wrong about that to me. It really does. Clutch with Keon Rose on Nooga Radio, noogaradio.com, 92.7 FM. So it's the most fun the NFL's been. The NFL brought back the dances. The NFL allows you to use the ball as a prop. They allow you to drop down to your knees. They allow you to get your entire team involved in a celebration. We had this past Sunday, we had a team baseball dance, which was great. We had a Duck, Duck, Goose, a game of Duck, Duck, Goose as a touchdown celebration, which was also fantastic. Like this is, the NFL is getting everything on the field that it wishes that it had over the last 2 to 3 years. It's getting all of those things, and now they can't get people to watch the football. I never would have thought. That's all I'm saying on that one. So I want to shift gears over to ESPN a little bit and Jemele Hill, not to beat the dead horse of that again. I just want to point out something that it appears that people seem to have forgotten about ESPN, because I was reading an article today earlier on Deadspin.com, which was about ESPN and criticizing ESPN for being diverse, right? Wanting diversity, because I don't know if there's another network with more people of color, with more women in the mix as a sports network than ESPN. ESPN does a very good job of being a diverse broadcasting company. They're very good at it. But it's weird that ESPN wants to be diverse and doesn't want people to say whatever it is that they want to say, right? Like they want the diversity without the differences of opinion that come with that diversity. And I'm not even here to crack down on ESPN for all of that. I'm here to point out that ESPN has been the company that is all about control. How was that not obvious all along? Like if what ESPN has done here with their entire suspension of Jemele Hill is in any way surprising to you, where have you been, man? What rock have you been living under for the past however long? That's what that company is. And it's been that way for the longest time. Right? Like the reason why they've lost other talent, right? Because ESPN has fired a bunch of people, they've let a bunch of people go, but a bunch of folks have walked away from ESPN. Right? Bill Simmons, it was a mutual thing. ESPN didn't extend his contract and he didn't come back. And you go even further back, you go back to Dan Patrick. A lot of the disagreements between ESPN and those people and those talents are have to do in large part, and even the whole Colin Cowherd situation, where Colin Cowherd ended up working at Fox Sports. The entire part of that's tough, right? The entire part of that's hard to deal with is that ESPN is restrictive. That all of those people see themselves as very creative people, and they are. Dan Patrick, Bill Simmons, who created those 30 for 30 documentaries, right? Like the fact that ESPN continues to run that even though he's not there. Don't get it twisted. Bill Simmons, the idea for the 30 documentaries in 30 days was his idea, right? ESPN calls the documentaries 30 for 30 now, even though they just release a documentary whenever they feel like it. But that was Bill Simmons' idea. Bill Simmons is a creative. And Colin Cowherd is a guy, he's going to sit at his chair, he's going to say stuff into the mic, and it's going to be wild. And you may not agree with it, you may not like it, but he's going to say exactly what he thinks and what he feels. And there's sort of a difference of opinion on what that is at ESPN. They're a restrictive company by nature, right? That's what they're about. They didn't start that way, but that's what they are now. And if you find that somehow surprising, welcome to the real world. Welcome to the real world, right? That if you find this to be the case about ESPN, understand things don't just happen in life. Nothing just happens in life, right? If you find that there's a string of terrible things happening in your life, you might want to take a look back through your life and go, in what way could I have done that better, prepared for this better, or what have you? Some people do just get unlucky, but overwhelmingly, things don't just fall out of the sky into your lap. Some things happened before that. And if you really think about it, you'll probably find that, yeah, well, I could have prepared. I could have done that differently. I could have handled that better. If you really give that some thought, you really could. It's definitely possible. Clutch with Keon Rose on 92.7 FM Nooga Radio and NoogaRadio.com. So I don't understand the people that are like, what? How could ESPN do this? Well, yesterday I pointed out it's their right as a company to do that. If they feel like it hurts their brand, and more specifically, their bottom line, because the brand is to make money. It's not just to be there. Their bottom line, then ultimately they have the right to do whatever it is that they want to do to protect that, because that's what businesses do. And to expect a business to do anything other than that is to think too highly of businesses, especially like ESPN, who is part of Disney. I don't know what the expectation was there, if not that. That was fully expected. Once she said that because the NFL is pandering to racists, essentially, was her point. That people should boycott watching the NFL, boycott the sponsors of the NFL. Once she said that, she attacked the bottom line of her own employer. The ESPN, a lot of their content is NFL content. Their most popular content is NFL content. They have Monday Night Football. And by the way, Monday Night Football has been pretty good this year. We've gotten some games that have been pretty good. That Redskins-Chiefs game, that game was pretty good. That Bears-Vikings game last night, that game was pretty good. Right? We've gotten some good performances on Monday Night Football. So she can't say that. She really can't say that and expect to get away clean. I'm not saying that Jamel Hill should shut up and stop talking, but there are ramifications for the things that you choose to say, no matter what your profession, no matter who you are. And that line might be different. That line might be different depending on what you say and who you are. And you do need to be aware of that. And then if you choose to proceed despite knowing those things, then you are someone who made a grown-up decision. You made an adult decision to do something, regardless of the consequences. And at that point, I can't really squabble for you because you knew what you were doing. You knew what you were doing. Last night, there was some big baseball games on, and I'm a little upset. I'm a Nats fan, and the Nationals disappointed me, as they do every year, by the way, in the postseason. And not just the Nationals, really. If you want to broaden the scope out to being a Washington fan, because I'm from Washington, D.C., and I root for all those teams. You want to expand that out to being a Washington fan. Washington postseasons are not fun. Okay? You root for the Wizards. You root for the Nationals. You root for the Capitals. You root for the Redskins. Postseason time in D.C. is not fun. It's not fun. Doesn't matter what the sport is. Doesn't matter what the sport is. And so now the Nationals are in a 2-1 hole to the Cubs, even though they got an incredible start for Max Scherzer. He was on his way to a no-hitter, and instead the Nationals lose 2-1. I'm not going to really try and get into the nitty-gritty of that because I will make myself mad trying to explain what on earth happened there. And the Nats and the Cubs were supposed to play again today, but that game is being delayed at the moment due to weather. So whenever it is that starts back is whenever it is that starts back. But yesterday the Nats end up losing 2-1. The Astros beat the Red Sox 5-4. They're up 3-1 in that series with an opportunity to put in the dagger, I believe, tomorrow. The Indians and the Yankees are tied at 2 apiece, which I thought was surprising in large part because, the Indians are way better than the Yankees. And the Yankees, by the way, beat them 7-3. And Trevor Bauer got the start from Cleveland. And that's confusing because Trevor Bauer's really good. But Trevor Bauer's pitching, by the way, on really short rest. And I think that's odd. I think that's really weird. How short that turnaround is. It's bizarre. Like, I feel like he just pitched 2 days ago. You really got to give. I understand that pitching rotations shrink in the playoffs, but I can't imagine that the benefit of shrinking your rotation that much really helps you. I really don't think it can. I don't think it does. So the Yankees and the Indians tied up at 2 apiece somehow, even though I think, of all the American League teams, the Indians are by far the best one and arguably the best team in the playoffs. Right? It's either them or the Dodgers, and I'm really leaning towards the Indians when you just look at what they have in their lineup and what they have in their pitching rotation. But the Yankees being good for baseball. It's good for baseball. The Yankees and the Red Sox both being in the postseason at the same time, good for baseball. I understand that that's something that nobody wants to hear and nobody likes it. Like, nobody likes to have to admit, oh, yeah, the NFL's great when the Cowboys are good, because most of us hate the Cowboys. Like, if you don't love the Cowboys, you hate the Cowboys. Like, it's not one of those things where it's like, I'm okay with. No, you either disdain the existence of Jerry Jones or you love it. I mean, it's one of those two things. Nobody wants to acknowledge it because then you'd have to admit something about the sport. But when the Cowboys are good, it's better for football. When Alabama's good, it's better for college football. When the USC, Southern California, when the Trojans are good, it's better for college football. It just is. Sam Darnold is good for college football because it means that one of the classic powers of college football are really good. So you've got the Dodgers, you've got the Red Sox, you've got the Yankees, all in the playoffs. None of these things can be bad. And also the Cubs, I guess, to a lesser extent, even though, they're mostly known for losing. They are a classic. They're a traditional power of a team, even though none of that tradition resulted in championships, let's say. But yeah, I'm looking at this Yankees series, and it just perplexes me. And then the Dodgers beat the Diamondbacks to go up 3-0 in that series. And we'll probably end up finishing off the Diamondbacks because they just look that much better than everybody else. Yu Darvish getting the start in the victory. So you go ahead and go, well, Wasn't that a great trade for them? It absolutely was. Clutch with Keon Rose here on Nooga Radio, noogaradio.com, 92.7 FM. My brother is going to join me. We're going to talk some hoops here, and it's going to be upsetting, but that's how it goes. My knuckleheaded brother. Next.
Traffic, news, and information. Nooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM. 3, 2, 1. Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4, 92.7 FM's news now.
On Monday night, 3 people were shot in the Shepherd community on Arlena Circle, right near Shepherd Road. All 3 were taken to the hospital. Their injuries, according to the police, are not life-threatening. Neighbors say it reminds them of the shooting that occurred nearby at the cemetery, in which 2 people were shot in a gang-related shooting. The police have not given a motive so far. We now have the name of a man who was killed in a motorcycle wreck in Bradley County. Bobby Mitchell Bunch was the man who was on a stolen motorcycle, and he crashed, and the police say he would have survived if he had worn his helmet. His body was found in a ditch near the main highway. A Northwest Whitfield High School coach has been arrested, accused of not reporting an alleged rape at a teen party in which there was drinking, according to the allegations. Lamar Cofield, charged with failure to report suspected child abuse. Russell Stroud, Nooga Radio News Talk 92.7 now.
Traffic, news, and information. Nooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM. Broadcasting live to over 1 million souls in Chattanooga, the Tennessee Valley, and beyond on frequency modulation 92.7. Sean Hannity, 25,000 watts on digital FM 95.3 HD4. CBS Radio News. NASCAR, Bloomberg Markets, David Tulis, streaming strong at noogaradio.com. Live on YouTube and Facebook. Nooga Radio, News Talk 92.7. Chattanooga Radio.
Goss Insurance. Yes, we are local. And no, we don't have an 800 number. In fact, our mobile numbers are on our business cards. We live, work, play, and worship in Chattanooga, and we would love to help with your insurance. Business, auto, home, life insurance. Call now, save money. Call Goss Insurance for all your insurance needs. Goss Insurance, 875-2500. 875-2500.
Nooga Radio, Digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM knows your opinion is important. So call 800-8949. Agree or disagree. Call 423-800-8949. 800-8949. Nooga Radio, 92.7 FM and 95.3 HD4. News Talk Nooga Radio.
You're listening to 92.7 FM, Nooga Radio, noogaradio.com. Clutch with Keon Rose. I'm Keon Rose, by the way, if that wasn't overwhelmingly abundant. I know I might not sound like Keon Rose. My voice is doing things, and that's just the way that it's going to be right now. But on the phone with me is my brother. He is a writer. He is a basketball aficionado, and we've had some major basketball developments actually in the last 24 hours, and we'll get to that because it's wild. But firstly, Kerwin, how you doing?
I'm good, Keon. What's going on?
Well, a lot's going on specifically. If we get to let's talk about the Dolphins though, because we were talking about it off the air a little bit, and I didn't get too much into that story yet. But
what? How have you, Keon? That's bread and butter. You should have milked this to death.
It is.
It should be your 4th hour of programming just on this.
That is true. I went with the Jamel Hill route, and
which is a good route, but it's a very old well, and this is better. Go ahead.
Yeah, but I like social stuff. But this is better because Miami Dolphins O-line coach is it John Forster? I know his last name's Forster. I forgot to write his first name down.
It's not relevant. A Dolphins head coach. Keep going.
So
O-line coach.
Dolphins O-line coach was caught on video. A video, by the way, that he took himself. So it's not like a secret video. Of him allegedly snorting cocaine. It's a white powdery substance, but we usually refer to white powdery substances as cocaine. So I am not going to pretend that that's not what that is.
I'm assuming you're reading an ESPN report because the tap dancing they have to do.
Oh, not just an ESPN report. I read it on ESPN, CBS Sports, and NBC Sports, and they're all tap dancing around it. And I understand for journalistic reasons, you can't assert something without it being in the record, even the video,
and
even though
that is cocaine. He's a Miami Dolphins, Miami, as in the cocaine capital of the world, coach. And he's sitting in the room talking about, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to go into a meeting.
That was the part that blew me away.
A meeting I would have loved to attend. It was
right.
so good.
He said, how about me doing this right before I go into a meeting? Which is, no one has ever uttered anything more incriminating into a camera than that, right?
They could probably trace back the exact moment where he sniffed cocaine, just based on the time of day, where the sun is in the background, all that good stuff. I mean, listen, part of me wants to feel bad for laughing at the misfortune and the falling apart of this man's life, but oh my goodness, such poor judgment. The story's not done yet. Go ahead, Keon, continue.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even look. We could literally spend the entire segment talking about this, but it pretty much speaks for itself. It is so overwhelmingly alarming. Like I woke up one day and I tuned into ESPN, and that was the breaking story of the day. And
but there were so many moments of poor judgment, and that's poor judgment along with the cocaine use. That's poor judgment.
Yeah, that is a cocaine use aside.
In announcing that you were at work, actively about to be engaged with other employees on the cocaine.
Right. And then the video, of course.
It's admitted that you went to Las Vegas and then met a young lady there who, what is the thing that the ESPN is calling them? A model from the Las Vegas.
Yeah, a model.
That's how ESPN was pitching it. But by model, I'm sure they mean part-time stripper and prostitute from Las Vegas, Nevada, who released the video that you sent her, of you confessing your love to her, who released it because, of course, the Miami Dolphins has this new stance where everybody has to come out and stand. So she did it in the name of what, Keon? Of your favorite topic, social activism.
Right. She exposed this man and his cocaine use on the grounds of social activism, which I don't want to accept that. I actually reject her social activism.
All of it together is just good. The whole thing together.
The story is so wild that it could really only have happened in Miami.
I would say that. I mean, what other cities could have happened? This is a very interesting.
That is a good point.
Position. It can happen in Miami. I feel like LA has a decent shot here. No,
LA could do it. Atlanta could probably do it too.
You could just produce that kind of recklessness. I mean, we've got people being very dumb with cameras on their phone. There's just too much. It's too easy to access things. It's like, oh, the idea pops into your head to record yourself. You just have to go back in your house and get a camcorder and then set it up and then record a video of yourself doing cocaine in your office and then sending it.
And then I don't know.
To Las Vegas, the stripper via mail. But now it takes like all of 2 minutes to do. You can ruin your career in 2 minutes time, Keon.
Which that's true. But typically you're not the one that provides the video of you ruining your career. But anywho, let's hop on over to hoops because I feel like that's our best ground there. And I don't know if you heard, but last night the 76ers.
No. Before you do this,
okay.
Please tell me you get the video. If you can get the video and maybe just cut up the clips so that you can have a little sound effect of the dude snorting cocaine. Just a little choice pieces that you thought were interesting for your audience. Just throwing it out there, a little chum in the water for you.
Well, you're an anarchist, so you would do that if you had the show. I don't know if that's something I would run back every day. You would run that back every single day.
It's the greatest story since what's his face was on top of a dead shark naked, allegedly.
Well, in fairness, because we had a football story and a scandal story this summer in the SEC, and I know you don't follow college football all that much, but we had a story this summer that could only have happened in the SEC, in which Hugh Freeze, the former head coach of Ole Miss, got fired because he called prostitutes from the Ole Miss phone, which is a government phone, which means people can ask for the records of it. And
if you were a professional at any level, maybe just get yourself a second phone for the drugs and the prostitutes.
Right. Like get you the burner phone. You got to get the burner phone.
It's free of charge.
Like, you never watched The Wire? Get the burner phone. But yeah.
Thank you. Get a burner, or get the beeper, get them to beep you on your beeper, and then go to pay
something. But he called the prostitution agency from his work phone, which is a public phone, so people have the records to it. And here's how I know this is a story that could only happen in the SEC. The person who pulled the records from the phone is an SEC reporter, but they're also a former graduate of Mississippi State, Ole Miss's rival school. So,
of course,
and he was already being investigated by the NCAA for fraud.
He thought, let me just check it against all known active fraud.
Right.
But who has the number? I don't even want to go into this. This is a whole separate thing. It is not as beautiful as the Miami O-line head coach video, because here we have video, and the man just seems to be very brazen about just all sorts of things. If you haven't seen it, it's on YouTube. 3 minutes of your time. Just Google it, watch it, enjoy that moment in your life, and then move on.
It's funny because I was watching it on ESPN, and they were like, well, some of you may find this video disturbing. But it's like, well, if by disturbing you mean absolutely amusing in every sense of the word, then I suppose I'm disturbed. I'm very disturbed.
Funny, but yes.
All right. Now I'm going to jump to the hoops here. Because last night, the Philadelphia 76ers, if you may have heard, made Joel Embiid the $148 million man. He hasn't played that much basketball. How is that possible?
I don't understand what the Sixers are doing. This is the max contract. There is no benefit to doing the thing that they did. There's almost no benefit, unless Joel Embiid said his representatives were telling them they're not going to play, which I've not heard. So all I know is that what you've done is you've signed somebody who has a Greg Oden. Greg Oden, for people who do not know, is a player that has no knees currently, literally played his knees off, and just has no knees and cannot play in the NBA anymore, because even though he was talented and tall, which is all you need to be in the NBA, and you have a Greg Oden style guy in Joel Embiid, and I like Joel Embiid and I want him to get that money, and I suppose good on him, but wow, what was the benefit here? You couldn't wait the whole year? You could wait one more year to see how his knees work out and then maybe pitch him a contract? I'm not saying rake him over the coals or make him unhappy, but why are you placating to Joel Embiid like this? He will not play at the beginning of this season, and he will have missed. He's played 31 games, Keon. What are we doing?
I don't know. I really don't know. If you were to divide the amount of money he is being paid by the amount of games he has played thus far, Joel Embiid has made a lot of money per game. A lot of money. That's scary, man.
If you include this new contract, he might be per minute of NBA basketball played, per actual output. He might be up there in some of in the history of the greatest players in the NBA. Just people who make $30 million a year, and he's just out here having played 31 games and already made $160 million. Really? What are we doing?
I don't know what we're doing. And I remember when people saw a few years ago that Mike Conley contract, and they were like, how did Mike Conley earn this? Well, Mike Conley played every game. This is insane. This is absolutely insane. So there's that, right? And then let's just stay on the Sixers here for a second. It appears that Markelle Fultz, who we both like, has ruined his shot over the summer. He changed it. He didn't tell anybody he changed it. He just changed his shot.
I don't understand.
And now it doesn't work. Look, he broke his shot.
Look, he'll be fine. I think Markelle Fultz, I don't know. Or were these the questions Danny Ainge had about Markelle Fultz? I think it was more, for me with Markelle Fultz, it's more like there's this raw base talent that he's going to have. He's just got great athleticism. court vision. I wouldn't really worry about the shot. Most guys get into weird funks anyways their first 2 years with their shooting at some point. So I would, even though he came out of college as a quote unquote shooter, I really wouldn't worry about it. Having said that, where is the Sixers shooting coach? Who is running the Sixers? I don't understand.
I don't know. Who drafts a rookie and then doesn't work with them over the summer? Like if a guy was changing his shot to the point where the shot was breaking, because he shot a free throw last night in a preseason game that looked Dwight Howard-esque. If a guy can do that to himself, where are the coaches? What are they doing? Is that not your job?
I don't understand. Like, it's not that he broke his shot. Like, I can understand someone tinkering with their game. Tinkering with their game. That makes perfect sense to me. But, like, you should be involved. Like, every 3 days, someone from the Sixers should be like, hey, Markel, checking in, bud. How's it going? You should just have people around him. Like, the kind of stuff that the Sixers rookies get up to, it just screams of a lack of environmental control. Like, you remember when Jahlil Okafor was out there in the streets punching people at nightclubs? As a rookie, where are the people supposed to be, like, shepherding these guys into adulthood and into, like, NBA stardom? Where are these players? Like, hire some veterans. This is what the 76ers were like, we're trying to win now. We're going to be good. That's our goal. Our new goal is, like, no longer to be the worst team in the NBA. Okay, that's great. Now, like, prove it. Hire coaches that are actually involved in these kids' lives. Hire veterans to, like, show them the ropes. Where are these players? I don't understand. How is Markel Fultz allowed an entire summer to break his shot?
I don't know. And maybe it's not broken. I just saw a couple of highlights last night. And, yeah, his drives to the basket are fine. But when he goes to shoot, something's changed there, and it's not good looking at all.
Listen, if you are a driver coming into the NBA and you're a guy who creates a lot of his offense off of that, you cannot have no shot. Like, ask Jeff Teague what happens when you get even the mild reputation that you can't shoot. The game becomes a lot harder. That's all it is.
Or ask any of these fast guards that have come into the league over this. Like, ask any of these fast guards that have come into the league without a shot. Ask John Wall. Ask Dennis Schroeder. Ask anybody who came into the league and couldn't shoot how fun that was when they couldn't shoot. It's not fun. It's not fun at all.
It's just, as a game becomes that much harder, and you also don't have, like, counters for some of the defenses that they're going to throw at you. But the big thing is they're going to go under screen. Like, a solid 20% of your scoring die is going to come off of getting a step when a player sets the screen for you, and it's just not there. It's just not there.
But that's what, when people ask, like, how is it that Isaiah Thomas is able to be so successful in the NBA, even though he's 5'10"? Well, you can shoot. He can shoot. And so you have to respect his range, basically. You can't break your shot, man. You just can't do it. It's not advisable in any way. So,
all right. So, go ahead.
No, I was gonna jump on over to the Western Conference.
Because it's way more interesting.
Because it's way more interesting.
You want to talk a little about the NBA conceding that the Western Conference is more interesting with the All-Star game?
I mentioned that before, but let's go into that a little bit. Where it says, like, if you put the West versus the East, there's no way that the East could stand a chance of winning, and I don't think that the East would get within 40 points of the Western Conference.
I mean, they've lost, like, the past 4 years. I think what's really interesting here is that, like, now you kind of build in some level of rivalry. There's a little bit of money on the line for charity, and it's just, we want a competitive game. Like, it's not that these guys don't play against each other full speed when money is not on the line. Like, if that was the case, then I could kind of understand why the NBA All-Star game is not lackluster. But in the offseason, you could see multiple footage, Hoodie Mellow, you know what I mean? Like, all of these videos surfacing of these guys playing basketball, full tilt. It's for practice.
Sometimes against not even NBA players. Kind of recognition. Sometimes against not even NBA players. I watched this one video of John Wall and James Harden wrecking a bunch of random guys. And they were going hard, man. Like, it wasn't like, oh, here's some dudes from the Y. We should probably take it easy on them. Like, no. James Harden was trying to embarrass people in that game and broke some poor man's ankles in a way that was not kind.
Can I make a really reckless and irresponsible statement?
Let's go for it.
Okay, I think John Wall might be the second best point guard in the NBA.
Yes!
Next year.
Yes!
Like, like Steph Curry, I think, is a solid number one. You could talk about Chris Paul getting a little help at the guard position and that being more interesting to him. But to be honest, it's not like Chris Paul didn't play with a top 10 talent for the past 5 years of his life.
Right.
So I think Chris Paul kind of is what he is at this point. And to be honest, declining on that side. So the only guy, it's John Wall and Kyrie competing for that second spot. And I really, 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 really think that John Wall he's climbing towards something. And also, Kyrie minus LeBron means we get a lot of Kyrie ISO. And I just truly don't believe Kyrie is looking. I don't think he can carry the team. And I think we're going to find that out. And it's going to be okay because Boston will bounce out. They'll lean a bit heavier on Gordon Hayward, who I think actually has the kind of skill set, just not the mentality of a superstar player. And what you're going to find is that John Wall consistently, night in and night out, is going to be a highlight reel factory and has been working towards carrying a team. If the Wizards win 55 games next year, we won't even have to have this conversation because they'll be the second best team.
Which, this is the kind of reckless speculation I can get behind. I can I can get right with this. This feels very good. This feels very good.
I low-key want them. I think they can win 50 games. I don't know if they're going to win 55. 55 for me is the number where, okay, John Wall's going to be having his name thrown in MVP conversations and all this other stuff. They get hot midway through the season and suddenly John Wall for MVP, look at his stat line, hasn't been under 10 assists for like 5 nights in a row, something like that. I can imagine that. There's a scenario where I see that happen.
Well, that starting unit is pretty good and they play in the East. So 55 should be possible. Very, very possible for that unit.
Listen, as long as they stagger those two guys, like if Scotty Brooks staggers those guys, and then you get like 8 John Wall minutes against second tier Eastern scrubs for 25 games next year, you're going to win those 25 games. So that's how it is. In that 8 minutes, the plus minus is going to be ridiculous. You'll win 24 of those 25 games.
I'm about that. That sounds wonderful.
Okay,
so yeah, back to the West where it is actually fascinating. The Thunder, how is that going to work? How's that actually going to work?
I really don't like them on defense. Like they have two. I think Paul George can be an all-team defense when he's trying. I think Steven Adams is all-team, like a second-team all-team defense last year for center spot, for the forward spot. But oh man, they don't know if they could play defense. And I think they have 2 really great ISO players and a guy who can could do almost a little bit of everything, but wants to be an ISO player. And so interesting enough, what if you happen, and a team that refuses to stagger people, like will just not stagger the minutes. All of their starters play all at once and then go like in mass to the bench. And you bring out the scrubs, the secondary unit, and they are terrible for every second that Russell Westbrook is not on the floor. You send them to the bench. So maybe they find a way to smooth this out. But honestly, they're going to win a bunch of games in the regular season. They're going to feast on a bunch of weaker teams, and they're going to get highlight reel after highlight reel, and then they're going to catch a team that's actually organized, like the Spurs or possibly the Rockets. I say that in quotation marks because Chris Paul is old and always gets hurt in the playoffs, or more than likely the Warriors is what's going to happen, and then the Warriors will dismantle them. But it'll be fun. It's fun to see people trying, though, right? Like, you're not just going to give up in the face of the juggernaut. You actually put something together that's competent.
Fair enough. I hadn't even considered the defensive stuff being as odd as it is. I actually thought about the offensive side of the ball, that all of those guys are ball dominant guys, and that maybe you could get Melo to accept sliding to the 4. But I still don't see Paul George and Russell Westbrook working very well together, and maybe that's just me seeing things. Is that just me seeing
things?
Here's
my thing with the Paul George thing is I think people have kind of underrated his ability to literally do about everything in basketball at a B level or higher. At that NBA level, and then at that NBA level kind of caliber B level when I say that. So he really is he almost has no holes in his game in that sense. He won't excel at some things, but he can run pick and roll with Russell. And that's scary. And he can run, he can run the point for a little bit in stretch minutes and in short minutes. And obviously he can shoot the three. My issue with this team is like these are three guys who kind of have streaky three-point shooting performances in a league that really values the three-pointer right now, and so we'll see.
We will see. We're coming up to the end of the segment here, and I have a lot more basketball questions that I want to ask you. Would you mind sticking around?
Absolutely.
Okay. So we've got about a minute left. So let's get back to that all-star format thing here. What do you think is something fascinating that might happen with this all-star format? Because you do have a LeBron James that has a rivalry with Steph, right? But him and Kyrie kind of don't do the thing anymore. If you end up having to choose between...
What I think is really great here is besides, like, because you always have these sort of storylines coming in, you'll see who will pick who. But I don't think LeBron is taking any Warriors. And if he's not taking Kyrie, then we might just end up with the East versus West anyway.
Right.
Which will be, to me, is hilarious. And then you have a situation like, I don't know, Isaiah Thomas might be healthy by that time. Does he get the nod? All these kinds of interesting things. Plus, you know how players are weird. You know what I mean? Like, they're weird when they're, like, picking who they think is the best. You remember when Kevin Durant was like, Kawhi Leonard's not that good?
Yeah, that's so bizarre.
He's a system player. You remember when he said that? Like, you can never really evaluate. Like, there's a way it goes in your head. You're like, well, this is the obvious top six people. So immediately these three guys are going to get snatched off the board. And then you look up and, oh, James Harden hasn't been picked. And it won pick number 7. And you're like, really? Not James Harden, guys?
I think that's going to turn out being bizarre. It's just one of those things. And maybe guys will actually try during the games, of course, because then you have to justify your picking spot or get mad at somebody for not picking you. You're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose on Nooga Radio, NoogaRadio.com here on 92.7 FM. My brother's going to join me on the other side of this segment so we can pick apart more NBA next.
The Tennessee Valley's news talk leader, Nooga Radio, digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM. 3, 2, 1. Chattanooga Radio, digital FM 95.3 HD4, 92.7 FM's news now.
On Monday night, 3 people were shot in the Shepherd community on Arlena Circle, right near Shepherd Road. All 3 were taken to the hospital. Their injuries, according to the police, are not life-threatening. Neighbors say it reminds them of the shooting that occurred nearby at the cemetery, in which 2 people were shot in a gang-related shooting. The police have not given a motive so far. We now have the name of a man who was killed in a motorcycle wreck in Bradley County. Bobby Mitchell Bunch was the man who was on a stolen motorcycle, and he crashed, and the police say he would have survived if he had worn his helmet. His body was found in a ditch near the main highway. A Northwest Whitfield high school coach has been arrested, accused of not reporting an alleged rape at a teen party in which there was drinking, according to the allegations. Lamar Cofield, charged with failure to report suspected child abuse. Russell Stroud, Nooga Radio News Talk 92.7 now.
The Tennessee Valley's news talk leader, Nooga Radio, digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM.
Power Hour News at noon and 9 being brought to you by Greg's Sandwich Works, featuring the best cuts of meats for your sandwich. Greg's Super Spuds, wraps and the most delicious salads in Chattanooga. Greg's Sandwich Works, 6337 East Brainerd Road, Chattanooga.
As an independent agent, Goss represents more than 50 of the leading companies. Goss does the shopping and you save. Goss Insurance for your auto, business, home, and life insurance. 875-2500 Goss Insurance.
Hey, dude, check this out. Have you ever seen one so big?
Whoa, look at the size of that.
Look at this little itty-bitty one.
Wow, that's really small.
They have them big, small, and everything in between. You'll always find the biggest variety of knives at the knife shop at Frost Cutlery in Ottawa. We're talking about over 40 brands of knives, including Benchmade, WR Case & Sons, Booker, and all the Frost Cutlery brands. Now, Sam, you've been to the cutlery shop. Is it amazing?
Spectacular. The knife shop at Frost Cutlery in Ottawa have knives, swords, kitchen knives, ammo, and reloading supplies, plus survival gear.
It's the knife shop at Frost Cutlery, open 7 days a week. Hey, girls, you're going to love this. We're going to the knife shop. Hey, let's not tell them they have ammo and loading supplies. The Knife Shop at Frost Cutlery opens 7 days a week. You'll always find the biggest variety of knives. You're going to love the Knife Shop at Frost Cutlery in Ottawa. The Knife Shop.
And tell them David Tulis sent you.
Hi, this is Eric Pelt. If you filed an extension on your taxes, they are due October 16th. You need to act now. We have 2 offices that can help you if you call E.J. Pelton right now. Call E.J. Pelton. We make life less taxing. Call now.
He stole out so much cash, such a huge mountain of cash, that he's become a national star. Rick Davis. You know the story. Cash, 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 and more cash. People can't believe it. They want to see it. And now Rick Davis has a new TV show. National TV, USA and Canada. He's got the gold and silver, diamonds and rings. You get dizzy just thinking about it. Rick's selling. Rick's buying. Cash, cash, cash. We interrupt this commercial to bring you an important announcement. Rick Davis National TV Show, reaching over 80 million people nationally and internationally. Check your local listing for airtimes. Rick Davis hasn't gone Hollywood. He's gone Chattanooga, and Hollywood loves it. And so will you. Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds debut show. See Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds Brainerd Road now. He's got the gold and silver, diamonds and rings. You get dizzy just thinking about it. Rick's selling. Rick's buying. The autographs are free.
Hey, Mom.
Yes, Summer.
I know what I'd like to do for Christmas this year.
What would you like to do?
Take shoe boxes full of goodies to the homeless military veterans.
What would go into these shoe boxes?
Toothbrushes, toothpaste, dental floss, deodorant, chapsticks, shampoo, soap, hand warmers, hand sanitizer, socks, gloves, toboggans, small Bibles, blankets, snacks, and cough drops.
Where can people donate these items?
Alpine Crest Elementary School, Sonic on Hickson Pike next to Frontrunner, Chick-fil-A in Northgate Mall in Hickson, and Nooga Radio below Goss Insurance across from Bojangles on Hickson Pike.
When will we distribute the shoe boxes?
On November 10th from 11 to 12:30 and December 15th from 10:30 to 12:30 at the Community Kitchen on East 11th Street, downtown Chattanooga.
Please help us in donating these items for our shoebox campaign. No veteran should ever go homeless.
Broadcasting live to over 1 million souls in Chattanooga, the Tennessee Valley, and beyond on frequency modulation 92.7. Sean Hannity, 25,000 watts on digital FM 95.3 HD4. CBS Radio News, NASCAR, Bloomberg Markets, David Tulis, streaming strong at NoogaRadio.com. Live on YouTube and Facebook. Nooga Radio, News Talk 92.7. Chattanooga Radio.
WDLZ HD4 Ottawa, W224AZ Chattanooga,
92.7, digital FM 95.3 HD4
Chattanooga.
Some parts of wildfire-charred Northern California seem like
Armageddon. Gone.
Women come forward with
more sexual misconduct allegations against Harvey Weinstein.
This is the CBS World News Roundup Late Edition. I'm Dave Barrett. It's anything but easy to fight wildfires in Northern California, says Incident Commander Barry Bierman.
We are still having active fire in all locations. We are unfortunately continuing to experience additional structure loss.
More than 2,000 structures have burned. 4,000 personnel are fighting those flames. In human terms, the fires have killed 15 people. And for those who evacuated, people like Michael Everidge in Sonoma County, he lost his house. He surveyed the devastation.
My mom's going to come home to this, and all she has is what she could throw in the back of the car to evacuate. She's 80.
A snapshot of the damage in Santa Rosa from CBS's John Blackstone.
The flames consume mobile home parks and comfortable hilltop subdivisions, luxury hotels, and fast food restaurants. In all, some 1,500 buildings have been destroyed in and around this city of 175,000. Jimi Hendrix could barely recognize the street he lived on.
There's nothing but chimneys standing. They're just black. The whole damn neighborhood's black.
In Sonoma County, Sheriff Rob Giordano says they had reports of 240 missing persons.
There was a lot of assisted living centers evacuated. There are 25 different evacuation centers.
Cell phone service was spotty. Eventually, 57 of those missing persons turned out to be safe. At the White House today, President Trump promised
the federal government will stand with the people of California, and we will be there for you in this time of terrible tragedy and need.
Entertainment executive Harvey Weinstein may be out, but allegations of more misconduct have arisen. They include a recording from a couple of years back.
I don't feel comfortable.
Honey, don't have a fight with me on the phone. Please, I'm not going to do anything. I swear, my children. Please come in. On everything, I'm a famous guy.
This New Yorker audio recording was made 2 years ago by the NYPD. In the audio, Weinstein admits to groping a model named Ambra Badalena Gutierrez. The New Yorker piece details allegations from several women that Weinstein raped or sexually assaulted them. The New York Times, meanwhile, reports more claims of sexual harassment by Weinstein, allegedly against actresses Gwyneth Paltrow, Angelina Jolie, and others. Bill Rakoff, CBS News.
Former President Obama released a statement that says, in part, any man who demeans and degrades women in such fashion needs to be condemned and held accountable, regardless of wealth or status. Weinstein in the past held fundraisers to benefit Obama and Hillary Clinton. She issued a statement today expressing shock over those allegations. Could Weinstein face charges? Legal analyst Andrew Cohen says probably not on older charges. But
if there are more recent episodes, and there may have been, you have to wonder if prosecutors aren't looking anew at some sort of a criminal case here.
Dow gained 69. Now this.
Jay Farner from Quicken Loans. The rate today on a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage is 3.875%, APR 4.05%. But choosing the right mortgage lender means choosing much more than just a rate. Let me ask you, does calling the company with the best client service in America, with 11 J.D. Power Awards to prove it, matter? Does calling the company that invented Rocket Mortgage, the industry's most innovative, client-focused technology, matter? Does calling the company with 17,000 plus team members who are helping to rebuild the great cities of Detroit and Cleveland matter? Of course it matters. No wonder our clients have made Quicken Loans America's #1 online lender. Call Quicken Loans today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com for the best mortgage experience on earth. That's 800-QUICKEN.
Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender licensed in all 50 states. NMLSConsumerAccess.org number 3030.
Following the Las Vegas shootings, the Brady campaign to prevent gun violence will go to court and challenge makers of bump stocks. Those make rifles fire like automatic weapons. And the group's Avery Gardner.
What we're talking about is making sure that there aren't products out there to be used by killers in ways that subvert federal law on machine guns. That's what we need to stop here.
They're seeking counseling and treatment money for Las Vegas shooting survivors. Now to the NFL pregame ritual. Correspondent Stephen Portnoy.
Still angry over the players who take a knee, the president tweeted that the NFL receives massive tax breaks. He said it's time to change tax law. The league claims it stopped seeking tax-exempt status some years ago. White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders acknowledged that.
They receive tax subsidies on a variety of different levels.
She pointed to the state and local funds used to build football stadiums and said it's not too much to ask.
3, 2, 1. Chattanooga Radio, Digital FM 95.3 HD4, 92.7 FM's news now.
On Monday night, 3 people were shot in the Shepherd community on Arlena Circle, right near Shepherd Road. All 3 were taken to the hospital. Their injuries, according to the police, are not life-threatening. Neighbors say it reminds them of the shooting that occurred nearby at the cemetery, in which 2 people were shot in a gang-related shooting. The police have not given a motive so far. We now have the name of a man who was killed in a motorcycle wreck in Bradley County. Bobby Mitchell Bunch was the man who was on a stolen motorcycle, and he crashed, and the police say he would have survived if he had worn his helmet. His body was found in a ditch near the main highway. A Northwest Whitfield High School coach has been arrested, accused of not reporting an alleged rape at a teen party in which there was drinking, according to the allegations. Lamar Cofield, charged with failure to report suspected child abuse. Russell Stroud, Nooga Radio News Talk 92.7 now.
Traffic, news, and information. Nooga Radio, Digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM. Broadcasting live to over 1 million souls in Chattanooga, the Tennessee Valley, and beyond on frequency modulation 92.7. Sean Hannity, 25,000 watts on digital FM 95.3 HD4. CBS Radio News, NASCAR, Bloomberg Markets, David Tulis, streaming strong at NoogaRadio.com. Live on YouTube and Facebook. Nooga Radio, News Talk 92.7, Chattanooga Radio.
Hello, Chattanooga. You're listening to AM 1240, 92.7 FM, Nooga Radio, and NoogaRadio.com. Clutch with Keon Rose. And joining us on the phones is my brother. He is a writer. He's a basketball aficionado. And we're going to get to some questions that are not basketball later because, of course, we are. But we were wandering into some Western Conference talk before the break, and I wanted to get your assessment of the Western Conference because, of course, it is the conference that matters in that league, and it is a murderer's row of teams when you talk about the changes that have been made to the Timberwolves. We've got an extra year of Boogie Cousins and Anthony Davis gelling together. How does the Houston Rockets thing work? We talked a little bit about the Thunder already. Do you think the Warriors are still the team to beat? What is your assessment of the Western Conference?
The NBA, and it's by a large margin. They've now got 2 years together. They're going to be cohesive. They're going to see some of that Steph Curry Durant pick and roll that they broke out in the finals and was unstoppable. Like that is the low key. That's the thing that no one is really talking about. They started running that just a little. I think they ran it a lot in the finals, but they ran it, and that was the first time they leaned on it, and they could just get open threes. Oh, not at will, but as close to it with maybe the single greatest athlete of all time tried to disrupt the play. They were still getting really great shots. So I don't know. So the Warriors won, obviously, and so they're on top of that mountain. And what you can really enjoy about the NBA is that it's just a bunch of guys who are so ultra competitive that they would not allow themselves to sort of fall into mediocrity. You've got teams like the Timberwolves gearing up. They got Jimmy Butler now. They look good. They look good. Colin Cowherd hasn't made that leap yet, which is the big concern here. If he makes that leap this year, I'm willing to talk Timberwolves top 3. But as long as he's just a top 15 player and he's gonna be able to get 18 and 9 every single night, which is interesting and really good and promises a lot because he's super young. But it doesn't do much in terms of like title winning is concerned. I think the Pelicans are going to be awful. But awful in the most beautiful, interesting way that a basketball team can be. They have no point guard that I trust, and none of their players can stay healthy. But there's going to be like a 10-game stretch when Boogie Cousins is lobbing the ball to Anthony Davis on every other possession, and it just looks like it's the greatest thing, and they've revolutionized the NBA again, and then they're going to get shot out of the game when they play a team that can shoot threes, and that'll be that. But until that moment, or until Boogie Cousins has like some kind of episode, I think they should be interested. I don't know. Who else you got? Who else you want to hear about?
Rockets. Harden and CP3.
Rockets, this one's simple. Chris Paul's old. I don't care. I don't care for 2 ball-dominant guards running a team. Chris Paul play some off-ball. James Harden can play some off-ball. They'll stagger their minutes, and so that one of them comes off the bench and that they don't have offense. And they'll play almost no defense, as all Mike D'Antoni teams do, and they will not win anything. That's my opinion of the Rockets.
Wow, that's the most extreme opinion. I'm glad we got to the Rockets. I'm glad. That is the most extreme Rockets opinion I have heard.
I don't think they're that good. I'm gonna be honest. I might be wrong, but I really don't think they're that good.
Let's be honest here. I completely agree with you on the Rockets. I'm not. I think that there's something about that team that's not going to work, and part of it is that I think that Chris Paul is a jerk, and it's just hard to play with that guy. And if you're James Harden and you're used to handling the ball and you're used to carrying teams, Buddy showing up and being a jerk is not about to work for you. Like, I really don't think it's going to work for James.
It's this personality thing that's a great unheralded thing with the NBA. Is that like the thing that Kevin Durant happened with Kevin Durant is Kevin Durant occasionally moody, but mostly just a guy who's kind of chill. Playing with Russell Westbrook, who was like this type A alpha male, yelling and barking kind of guy, and it just didn't. They worked on the court somewhat for the most part, but it didn't really. They didn't enjoy hanging out together in this deep all the time kind of way. They were friends, but they weren't like these for a guy to spend that amount of time together, you would think they'd be better friends. Like, you would think that Kevin would let Russell know if he was leaving. That kind of friendship. Or if you think about how Chris Paul was in LA and how everybody could tell you to, like, almost anybody is willing to go on record and say, yeah, he's kind of really uptight and annoying and has a very specific way the game of basketball needs to be played. And it's so much easier just to go along with that than to, like, actually try to challenge him. Because when you challenge him, then it gets escalated to this whole other level. And James Harden, who is just the most passive-aggressive human being the world has ever met, is going to just hate playing with Chris Paul. He is going to hate playing with Chris Paul. There will be an act of murder. James Harden will kill Chris Paul. That's how I predict the Rockets.
Look, James Harden is the most passive-aggressive dude this side of LeBron James. So most certainly something is going to happen. And it might wind up being some kind of weird social media battle that we wind up finding out happens. Or who knows? Like you said, an actual homicide. I don't know. I can't tell you what's going to happen with that team, but I don't think they're going to be very good. That's the thing. You're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose on 92.7 FM. My brother is on the phone. He's a basketball aficionado. And what we're going to do now is obviously talk to him about things which he is not an aficionado in. Let's just go to the NFL, a sport that you give up on around halfway through the season anyway. But
I've already given up on it, but continue.
Right. You're a Chargers fan, and so I think you just put the shutters down on that one.
Sorry, 1-4. No, 1-5. 1-4?
1-4. 1-4. You beat the Giants in the Doo-Doo Bowl.
In the Doo-Doo Bowl. Well, to be fair, there were a lot of Doo-Doo Bowls on Sunday. There was
a couple, yeah.
Jets, Browns. There were a bunch of the Miami game I hear was what you would imagine, like an entire city of human beings that were replaced by just trash cans on fire, just living together in harmony, just sort of smelling of trash and fire and disappointment.
it to me, it's one of those things where you know how you have the heartwarming story of the guy that comes back from retirement. It's literally the opposite of that. He has turned a heartwarming story, or what could have been a heartwarming story, into a cautionary tale.
It's not heartwarming, but I mean, $12 million will warm my heart.
Well, that's true. I'm just saying he could have turned a story that was possibly heartwarming.
Whatever they're paying him would warm my heart to its most warmest, and just like the Grinch stole Christmas, my heart enlarges 3 sides. Then I have a heart attack with all of the money they've paid me.
Look, when you look at how badly he is and how bad they are, the 12 mil is really the only reason to stick around, is it not?
I guess.
Because I can't think of any other reason.
It is. I was going to think of another reason, like the honor of the game and like the camaraderie of the teammates, but both me and Jay Cutler aren't really, Jay Cutler's face as it rests on the sideline, and me as a human being don't seem that interested in that. So $12 million will do.
Yeah. You could say the honor of the game, but man, Jay Cutler does not strike me as the honor of the game kind of guy. This is a man that when he came out of retirement, people asked him about his cardio, and he said, well, quarterbacks don't run that much, so I don't really need to be in shape. So there's that. Okay, so
there's J.J. Watt, apologizing to the city of Houston for not being able to play football, and then there's the you could go the other way as well, I suppose, and you could always just say you don't need to be in shape because your position does not require it.
Right. So, okay, let's talk about some of these injuries, because some of these injuries were real bad. Like J.J. Watt breaks his leg on a play that you can't even tell it's a break. He just falls over, and then he tries to stand again because he's J.J. Watt, and it just doesn't work out. And then you have Odell Beckham Jr. essentially getting his leg aggressively crushed. And it looks bad, man. Some of these injuries are terrible. As a person,
all of the Giants wide receivers went down in one game
for
the year. All of them season-ending injuries.
Yeah.
One on the depth chart, 1, 2, and 3 gone. I think you and I should call up there to see if they need any help. They could use you as a slot, me as a deep threat. Now, in fairness, I never run, a sub 6 seconds, 40-yard dash. But I mean, it's Eli Manning. So even if I was running, let's say a 3.5 sub 6 second, 3.5 40, it wouldn't matter. He's not going to throw me the ball anyway. He's old. He's an old Washington quarterback. The offense is basically him dropping back and getting hit because he held the ball too long. Well, I'm sorry, not getting hit. Him falling down because he absolutely refuses to get hit. He's a Manning, and they know the fall to the ground immediately.
Look, the Mannings are smart. The Mannings have got this thing figured out. Why take a bone-crunching hit? Feed yourself,
Right.
like some kind
Don't
of...
give them the highlight reel. Don't put them on Sports Center. Just
Exactly.
just
give yourself up like some kind of prey animal. There's no need to really fight this thing all that hard. It's not worth it. It's not worth it.
Right. You can always live to fight another down kind of mentality. Plus, they pay you the same amount of money whether the guy tackled you really hard or whether you fell down and he touched you. Same thing.
And he gets the sack regardless. Like it's a win-win for everyone, really. So
yeah, you don't get crushed. He gets the paper. Everybody gets everybody gets the win bonus. Nice.
Clutch with Keon Rose on 92.7 FM, Nooga Radio, NoogaRadio.com. My brother Kerwin is joining me on the phone. He's a basketball aficionado and a writer. And we are asking him we're asking him football questions because of course we are. So I like a lot of these young quarterbacks in the league. Dak Prescott, Deshaun Watson, even Jared Goff is playing really well right now in that Sean McVay offense. Carson Wentz it felt like for years when we talk about the NFL quarterback position, the sky was falling. They don't make it. They don't make any new quarterbacks. All the quarterbacks stink. Could it possibly be that the NFL was not playing these college quarterbacks in the college system in which they were used to?
I mean, I don't know. I think this always happens. It just takes a little time to refresh talent pools. I mean, UFC is going through the same thing. All their stars either graduated past them or ended really tragically. Actually, all but one of their stars ended tragically. Every single one of them. We don't have to get into it, but John Jones is a disgrace, and Ronda Rousey got a head kicked out of the sport. So what you have in the NFL is just, it's time. The NFL has 30 teams. They can't all have bad quarterbacks. It can't always be this way. So we used to be just three guys, right? It was Rodgers, Brady, Manning, and then Manning retired. That means, we need new guys to give new guys a chance. We're actually giving them reps. Gave Carson Wentz an entire year to be sort of pretty decent and then terrible and then okay at the end of the year. And then he comes back having all of those reps under himself, an entire training camp to train in with these teammates and to adjust with this team. And suddenly he looks like a professional quarterback. I don't know what to tell you. He's fun to watch because he throws the ball downfield and nobody else in the NFL does. And he's big and athletic and strong. And if he had a personality, I'm sure I would know what his face looks like, but I don't.
He's a rugged ginger. But I
like a rugged ginger.
Yes.
Look at that.
From North Dakota.
How many ginger jokes can we do on there? We can't do any. I'm not going to do any. We'll save those for next time.
Okay. Yeah. No, let's get me fired next time. But so for instance, when you look at the Rams, I think a lot of it is coaching. I think we've thrown a lot of it at the feet of quarterbacks, but a lot of it is coaching. And I only look at Jared Goff as the example because Jeff Fisher was on his way to 100% ruining Jared Goff.
But it's Jeff Fisher. Jeff Fisher's not a coach. He's an 8-and-8er. We're describing. I mean, that's just that's the wrong pronoun. You coach is the wrong noun to use. That's all that is. Jeff Fisher is a guy to just not ruin your franchise, and then he ruined the Rams. But Jared Goff was always a good quarterback. We knew that. That's why they drafted him in the first place. That's why they.
Well, here's the thing.
They move up to get him. I don't remember how it was.
They did move up to get him, but the thing is, everybody started to lose faith in Goff because they wouldn't play him last year, and then when they did play him, he looked terrible. Not okay, not average, right? Because Carson Wentz was taken 2 in that draft, and Carson Wentz looked good, decent, right? Jared Goff looked bad, like he didn't know how to play the game, and then they bring in a young offensive coach
playing on professional sports. That you would expect a 23-year-old. It's ridiculous already that the entire world thinks 18-year-olds are responsible enough to live their lives alone on that. That's just ridiculous. They're not adults. They're kind of shadowy in between area figures. There's no word to describe them. They're just not adults.
Right.
But the idea that you would hand over a professional football team's offense to a 23-year-old, and then when he failed the majority of the time, as most of you would if you were suddenly vaulted to the top of the field in your career path at 23, then and then like just sort of give up on them before they're 25. It's ridiculous. It's so dumb. It's why Jeff Fisher is a bad coach, and most of humanity's scourge is a shame unto its maker's eyes.
But the thing is, like, now Goff doesn't like I don't know. He made this transition in one offseason from being a guy that looks bad to being a guy that looks very, very good. And part of it too is that his head coach is I think Sean McVay is legitimately a genius. B, Sean McVay is the youngest head coach in the history of the NFL. He's 31 years old, which makes me feel horrible. And C, he's just opened this thing up for Goff. And like, I look at it and go, wait, how many of these young quarterbacks didn't find a coach that really just decided, I'm going to make things real easy for you instead of making you learn my complicated offense? Because I see it happen in Houston with the Texans and Deshaun Watson, that Bill O'Brien has conceded and punted on the idea that Deshaun Watson's going to learn his entire complicated Bill O'Brien offense and just said, you know what? Here you go. I'm going to run. Like, they're running plays that look like what Deshaun Watson ran in Clemson, like exactly like what he ran in Clemson.
And that's good. Listen, it's not going to work in the playoffs, right? You're going to get defenses that are all keyed up, have been preparing for you because they've, like, you know, seen the math and now have you locked in as a potential opponent for like 3 weeks now. You're going to catch some of the most prepared athletes and most gifted athletes in the entire world, and who've been like locked in on just you, and they think you're the weak link. And so these simplified offenses won't work there. But if the Dolphins roll into the town, or if the Jets roll into town, or the Bills, or yes, the Chargers, on any given week, you can do that against them.
Yeah, I mean, the goal here is to at least get to the playoffs.
4-day rest, roll into town. You mean you can't get the game over on them? Come on now.
I mean, look, the goal here is to get to the playoffs. And if you get to the playoffs with your offense, no matter what that offense is, I'm all for it, right? Like, you can figure out what you do once you get there, but you have to get there first. You can't, I mean, right? If I talk about that, like, oh, this is not going to work in the playoffs, so let's not run it at all. That's insane.
It's that artistic concept that's letting, you know, great being the enemy of good. Like, come on now, you just got to put something on the field that functions. Don't try to run the spread offense that the Rams were running when they were in their prime. They're not the greatest show on turf. But, you know, if you just want a simplified version that, like, okay, you only have to do 2 reads on this play. 2 reads, you look left, you look right, and then you check it down. What is so difficult about that?
It's not difficult at all. And at least get these guys some reps so that you can slowly build it up to some level of complexity. And then, of course, you really do look at some of like a guy like Deshaun Watson, who I just like a lot. He's so fun to watch. Play breaks down and he decides to use his legs. You're not going to catch him if you have not accounted for that at all. It's going to punish you in just the worst way imaginable.
Look, I don't agree with you on Deshaun Watson. I feel like Deshaun Watson has no throwing arm power. He's an athlete in every way but his arm, and I don't know that he makes reads quick enough, and I feel like he's going to get exposed one of these weeks. But, you know, you like Deshaun Watson, I like Carson Wentz. We'll see we'll just let whoever, let time decide, and when time picks Carson Wentz because he's a better, more gifted quarterback, then, I'll just another right one for Curlo.
I don't know how you turn it into that. Because I do think Wentz is better, but I like Deshaun Watson a lot. And to be fair,
Deshaun Watson, and I'll take Goff.
You're cutting out there, buddy.
Oh, I'll take famous Jameis or Goff. I'll take almost anybody over.
Okay, okay. See, now here's the thing. Like you can take Goff, but
quarterback to be.
I actually don't trust Jameis.
Who would you take?
I don't trust Jameis.
I don't trust Jameis either, but I mean, he's a charlatan. He's a con man. He's got this winning smile and a great personality, and he steals crab legs from Publix. But he wins, man. It's going to come down to like the last 5 games of the NFL season. I feel like he'll probably clutch those out. And they'll sneak into the playoffs, and then he'll steal a game he was never supposed to win from a really good team.
I suppose that the thing is, though, like that Thursday night game last week, I thought they should have beaten the Patriots. He overthrew Deshaun Jackson, and I thought to myself, who in this life has ever overthrown Deshaun Jackson? I've never seen it happen, and I saw it happen.
And that's not even a matter of strength; it's a matter of aim. How do you?
That's just accuracy.
Just a little air under it. Anyways, it's not relevant. Okay, admittedly, Jameis Winston is not the best example of a guy who's going to turn out to be better than Deshaun Watson, because Jameis Winston could be a top 5 quarterback in 5 years. We're out of the league, and out of the league kind of looks like what it is. He's going to do something extraordinarily stupid that exceeds the amount of talent that he has, and therefore the team would not be able to put up with it. And they'll just be like, okay, Jameis, this second video of the white powdery substance in 2 years, if you count the guy from the Dolphins, is too much for the league to handle. Looks like we have a cocaine problem. You're out.
That's the scenario that you've devised for Jameis Winston, and we'll see if that scenario ever happens. You're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose on Nooga Radio, NoogaRadio.com, here on 92.7 FM. Talk a little bit more baseball next.
Traffic, news, and information. Nooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
On Monday night, 3 people were shot in the Shepherd community on Arlena Circle, right near Shepherd Road. All 3 were taken to the hospital. Their injuries, according to the police, are not life-threatening. Neighbors say it reminds them of the shooting that occurred nearby at the cemetery, in which 2 people were shot in a gang-related shooting. The police have not given a motive so far. We now have the name of a man who was killed in a motorcycle wreck in Bradley County. Bobby Mitchell Bunch was the man who was on a stolen motorcycle, and he crashed, and the police say he would have survived if he had worn his helmet. His body was found in a ditch near the main highway. A Northwest Whitfield High School coach has been arrested, accused of not reporting an alleged rape at a teen party in which there was drinking, according to the allegations. Lamar Cofield, charged with failure to report suspected child abuse. Russell Stroud, Nooga Radio News Talk 92.7 now.
Traffic, news, and information. Nooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM. Broadcasting live to over 1 million souls in Chattanooga, the Tennessee Valley, and beyond on frequency modulation 92.7. Sean Hannity, 25,000 watts on digital FM 95.3 HD4. CBS Radio News. NASCAR, Bloomberg Markets, David Tulis, streaming strong at NoogaRadio.com. Live on YouTube and Facebook. Nooga Radio, News Talk 92.7. Chattanooga Radio.
Goss Insurance. Yes, we are local. And no, we don't have an 800 number. In fact, our mobile numbers are on our business cards. We live, work, play, and worship in Chattanooga, and we would love to help with your insurance. Business, auto, home, life insurance. Call now, save money. Call Goss Insurance for all your insurance needs. Goss Insurance, 875-2500. 875-2500.
Nooga Radio, digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM knows your opinion is important. So call 800-8949. Agree or disagree. Call 423-800-8949. 800-8949. Nooga Radio, 92.7 FM and 95.3 HD4. News Talk Nooga Radio.
You're listening to Nooga Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose on 92.7 FM. Joining us on the phones is my brother. He's a basketball aficionado and a writer. And, of course, we've been running him through the gambit. We started with basketball, but we've been running him through the gambit of sports, of which he is actually not an aficionado, and working in order from most proficient to least proficient. And now we're working our way towards baseball, a sport that I know that you don't actually like.
No, it's a bad sport. Boring.
Yeah, you're the quintessential millennial that Major League Baseball is trying to figure out a way to amuse. Is there any way that Major League Baseball can amuse you ever?
Listen, I'm fascinated by this idea that their entire postseason fits into a month and that the stakes get so high. If you could just make it so the stakes were always that high. Like, just do a 2-month season and then have it be that 1 month thing. Like 3 months. If you could put all of baseball into like 3 months, I don't care how many games you play, not fairly really that concerned with the health of the players or steroid use, to be honest. All of those things are fair game. Just crank it up. Like, you just condense it. None of this lounging about. You don't have years of our life to spend watching baseball. Just condense it. Make it more impactful. There's a word there. There's a lack of visceralness to baseball that I think would be appealing if it ever existed for longer than, like, say, October. But the Yankees are winning, so I'm not wholly unhappy with it.
The Yankees are winning, and it's an exciting version of the Yankees, too. It's not even – because I remember when the Yankees were winning in, like, the 2010s, and it was not all that exciting because the Yankees just compiled together a bunch of really old stars and just said, hey, we're overpaying all of you, win football games for us. And this new Yankees group, they're young, they're fun. Aaron Judge is legitimately exciting. And
though, from what I understand, not actually that great of a baseball player, just like large human who hits the ball hard or strikes out.
He's very powerful. That's what's exciting about him. He's not, in terms of determining good pitches from bad pitches and swinging at only the good pitches. Yeah, he doesn't do that. No.
So he's the spectacle of Andre the Giant. The thing that we come to see is the size and the power, but not necessarily the, ability.
Right. Well, it is sort of an ability when you consider that, like, you are showing up to see the size and the power, but it's like what he does when he connects. He does the monster mash on a baseball that's just, I don't know if you saw the home run derby. You probably didn't because you don't care. But it's one of those things where he just was hitting the ball out of the actual stadium.
I mean, that's cool, and I'm into that. Just, I don't know, man. How can you make it so that it feels like I'm watching a home run every inning? Is there a way that we can do that?
That's the crux of it, right? Like, this is the thing. This is the thing that people talk about.
Nothing in my life takes 4 hours.
Well, it shouldn't. But here's what I think that Major League Baseball should do. Not that I think it will change the minds of millennials like they think it will, but they've introduced the pitch clock in minor league baseball, and I actually went to go watch the lookouts now that they have the pitch clock, and the game goes by way faster. Like, you have a certain amount of time to set up and pitch again, which speeds things up, right?
Right. So it's like you can have a violation in tennis if you like. Well, no, you can't. In tennis, you can take all the time you want. Yeah. I have no idea. There's nothing comparable. Baseball is the only sport that's ridiculous enough to need to legislate people to be like, hey, don't take 29 minutes to set up your pitch. But go ahead.
Well, baseball to me is the postseason is where it gets super fun, and I know you know a couple of things, right? I know you know enough about the the Yankees to know that baseball is better when the Yankees are good, and
I mean, baseball is better for me when the Yankees are good because I like the Yankees. I'm not anybody else.
Look, everyone else can deny it, but I've said this, and it's sort of Cowherdian in its thought process, but I agree entirely. Baseball is better when the Yankees are good. Football is better when the Cowboys are good. Like, in terms of just the attention that it draws. College football is better when Alabama and USC are good. It just is. There's no good reason for it.
It doesn't matter what sport you are. It's kind of always going to be star-driven, and if you don't have actual functional stars. So that is to say that your sport isn't based around the economy of LeBron James and Steph Curry, and to a lesser extent, Kyrie Irving. If you don't have those kinds of guys who just are a draw whenever they go to whatever town, then you're kind of built around these flagships, right? So the UFC has the same thing. They have 4 stars, but the stars happen to be human beings, easier to replace than franchises. But it's really beneficial when a team that a person on the street can name. Like a person on the street would be like, oh, I know the Yankees. I don't know how many people know the Oakland Athletics, to be honest.
I don't know anybody who can.
Oakland Athletics. I can barely say the name. It's too much letters, too many letters, even though technically just Oakland A's work. But whatever. Please jump in and say.
Yeah, no. Well, I saw you drowning. I saw you drowning.
I was driving someone with that bus,
and I was like,
I got lost in the wilderness, and I was like, someone stop me. I'm talking baseball for longer than 30 seconds.
Anytime you wanted to stop yourself would have been great. But no, you just continued flailing in the water.
No.
And I was not about to reach out to a drowning man who might pull me down with him. But, well, okay, so you just mentioned the UFC on that, and I think the UFC is in a similar situation for me. Allow me to reverse the situation here, move myself out of my comfort zone, and talk a little UFC with you then, because UFC, to me, I don't know who's supposed to be good in that sport anymore, and it is hampering my enjoyment of it. I actually don't know who to root for or what's going on.
Okay, well, we can do this. It's a beginner's guide to UFC enjoyment. When you look at your combat sports, are you looking for, great technique and skill, or are you looking for classic heels?
Am I looking for classic what now?
Classic heels. Heel guys, like a Chael Sonnen, the Floyd Mayweather, the Ali when he was younger and very, brash and in your face.
I would like dynamic fights, right? I know that they tried to publicize the fight. The Triple G and Canelo fight was a great fight. It ended in a tie, which, I thought Triple G should have won it. But in terms,
Triple G should have won that fight. There's no.
And I'm a Canelo fan. I just thought Triple G was more active.
Vegas robbery.
Right. But that means we get a rematch, and the rematch is going to be glorious. But that's what I want. I mean, the two guys are not great publicists of fighting. But they're both great fighters. I want great fights.
Okay. So the guy that you should look at, so the number one fighter in the UFC, if you had to guess, give me his name.
I could not do that.
Okay, it's Demetrius Johnson. He's a flyweight. And the reason you never heard of him is because the UFC does not know what to do with Demetrius Johnson, because Demetrius Johnson does not hit people and they go away. If you've done that like 4 times in your career, you got your Connors, you got your John Jones, you got your Anderson Silva, who's like a ninja. You can kind of market those guys. It's going to end spectacularly. That's how they pitch it. Like, it's the easiest thing in the book. Even if the guy has no personality, you could do that. But Demetrius Johnson just is the best fighter in the UFC. He just doesn't get hit. And I mean, here's how much I mean that by. He fought a guy just, I believe, last Saturday, and he hit him well over 100 times, and the guy hit him 14 times in a 4-round fight that ended by submission. The guy hit him 14 times, and he could do, and literally almost anything is legal in that sport, and he could only put his hand on him 14 times. Demetrius Johnson is a magician and illusionist. He's amazing. He does everything well. You watch his fight, and it's just majestic. It's footwork people have never seen in that sport, and it's like you're going to see a bunch of guys coming up who can do stuff like that at different weight classes, but right now, he is the very spear point of that sport sort of ability and skill. And so Demetrius Johnson is the number one guy I would give you. Are you ready for more?
I am ready for more, but quickly, when it comes to marketing Demetrius Johnson, you're Dana White. How do you market a guy like that? Because to me, I like that. The guy that you could market as the ghost, you just can't touch him. I love that stuff. But how do you market that? Because I feel like they've relied very heavily on this guy touches you and you drop. And that's what they want to market to people. And I don't think that that's a consistent strategy, because, of course, you're going to have waves of fighters where not everyone you touch and go down, right? Like if your marketing strategy, if you're going to market Mike Tyson is he blows people away, then what happens when you reach a point in his career where he no longer blows people away? You know what I mean? How do you market a guy like Demetrius Johnson?
It's Iron Mike, but because he's a staple, he's a name.
Right.
The key is to be making the guy a name in whatever he does well.
So how do you make Demetrius Johnson a name?
Well, okay, so it's a bunch of different fronts you got to fight on. Obviously, the education of the casual fan. Like, I can talk to a casual fan in basketball, and I can talk to them kind of about pick and rolls, and I could kind of talk to them about, play sets and stuff like that. And I may not get into like deep analytics, or I may not get into like the theory of what a zone defense is supposed to do, but they know general stuff. So when they see it, they can be excited by it. Now, if you don't see it and recognize that he literally he was fighting southpaw and then went orthodox, he's switching his stances. You know what I mean? Like, if you can't recognize that, I don't know, tell you that you can't see part of the genius. That's one. But number two, as far as marketing goes, is you really do have to spend money on it. And they just haven't. They've gotten spoiled. They've had a knockout artist, for the most part. They were selling their sport on violence. So that's how that's how it came down. They finally got a fighter who isn't all about the carnage, who's about technique and skill, and they can't market him because all of their fighters are either carnage-based people who don't talk that well, Chuck Liddell kind of guys, or they're Conor McGregor and Ronda Rousey, who are amazing interviews, just phenomenal, and who seem to have the stamina, at least initially, to just do interview after interview after interview, and that's how they became famous. Conor McGregor just talked his way to fame. Like, he's good. I'm not going to be one of those guys who detract Conor McGregor, but he's just talked his way into that position. He talks and he talks and he talks, and then when he got a chance, he capitalized on it. But Demetrius Johnson, who is well-spoken and is really, 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 really slick in interviews, has more of a dry humor, harder. You just have to, like, pour money into it. Like, you either have to go one of the two ways. You either have to educate the fan, or you just got to, like, force him down their throats. He has to be on every other card. He has to be in post and pregame shows. You're bringing him into the ring after big fights, and you're setting up big fights. And that's the third step. I think they're going to try to do a super fight, quote unquote, where he goes up in weight, 10 pounds to the bantamweight, and fights whoever the champ is there. Who's probably, I think it's Frankie. Well, I think they're about to do a belt, the interim title fight. But we'll see who it is in a little bit. But like, that fight will be big. And if he beats, Frankie Edgar, or he beats Cody Dillashaw, or whoever has the belt right now, then that's like a huge fight. And that kind of like cements people, because it usually is this one moment where it all kind of comes together, and that's how you build a star.
Clutch with Keon Rose on 92.7 FM, Nooga Radio, NoogaRadio.com. My brother was a writer. He's a basketball aficionado. He actually is also a UFC aficionado. I personally go to him for UFC questions. And so now here we are. Okay, so give me another guy then that's that. And I wish, well, okay, before we go to the next question, I would just like to say I think it is a shame that the UFC has made its foundation, made its bedrock on savagery, because that's initially what turned me off from the sport in the first place. And that's initially, once I started watching it and realized that there was more beyond that, that's where my enjoyment came from. And I wish that they wouldn't rely so much on that. But anyway, give me another person. So Demetrius Johnson's one guy. I am beyond a casual fan at this point. Who else should I be paying attention to? Because the only name I know right now is Conor McGregor.
You got Cody Garbrandt. Cody No Love, as the guys call him. I think he might be the 135 champ. He is just a guy who has a lot of that DNA that Demetrius Johnson has. But these smaller fighters tend to switch stances a lot. Like, they fight out of both stances, and they use that to cover ground and to like be places where you think they're not, and all kinds of stuff. And so he was out of Uriah Faber's camp, I believe, and he does all of the stuff that Demetrius Johnson does, but also has a left hand that is made of granite and has dropped people. Can really drop people. Really exciting kid. Just really fluent and well-spoken, likes to lean into the controversy a little bit, likes the beefing kind of stuff, and so that'll help him for miles and miles and miles. I feel like he gets in too many. You can kind of suck him into a war. He kind of has that genetic Vulcan kind of thing where, like, I know I can fight technically better than this guy, but it would be really fun if we just sort of stood in the middle of the ring and slugged for like maybe 30 seconds. We'll see what happens. And he kind of has that in him, and that's not a great thing to have in a sport that gloves are tiny and jaws are very frail after like maybe taking a couple of those kind of punches. So, he's interesting. yeah, it's the whole sport's full of guys who are interesting, just haven't gotten their big break. You got Luke Rockhold, who really was in line to be that next guy, and then just lost the belt. He's kind of back on the come up, just won his fight recently, I believe in September or so. And then, you got to jump all the way up to the heavyweight division, which is just a wasteland of washed up fighters and really, really young guys who we're not really sure what they are yet.
Fair enough. I do like the guys that can get suckered in, though. That is my favorite thing, when you can actually convince a guy that's like, no, my technique is fine right now, and you just kind of sucker him into a fight. I would disagree with you on the Golovkin point, though. I think Triple G does not get suckered into wars. I think there's some moments in a fight where he decides it's personal enough that he's going in, and it's a conscious choice, and he's going in. And of course, he's very brilliant at cutting off the ring. So, like, if you want to run away from him, there's no way that you can. As Canelo learned, you really have to stand there and fight, which I think that's what made that fight such a great fight, by the way, is Canelo is the guy that has the body of a brawler that doesn't want to brawl. He wants to stand back and box. And Triple G just kept cutting him off and just said, no, stand in here and trade with me. And to Canelo's eternal credit, he did, and it was glorious. So there's that.
If Canelo could knock anybody out, that fight would have been like very scary for me as a Triple G fan. But I mean, he won that fight, anyways.
Yeah, the only knockout I've ever seen.
Last one on Demetrius Johnson. Somehow I ranted about him for like 12 minutes and did not mention that he literally just broke Anderson Silva's record for the most consecutive title defenses. I believe he just got his 12th one. So he has 12 straight title defenses. He's been in the title defense. That means 5-minute rounds, and he's beaten everybody who they put in the ring with him. He might have gotten hit really hard twice in those 12 fights. He's so good. He was fighting out of weight class. He was fighting at 135 and still beating dudes, still competing for the top belt, and giving up 20 pounds to guys and still like being amazing. It's his division's a little weak, and that's the hardest sell, is that like it's hard to get guys who are like really dynamic at 125. And he's maybe by far the greatest fighter who ever lived, and just never really had that one guy to like contest against him. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, the rival.
All he has, Frazier. You could probably do this better than me. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, Tyson had Buster Douglas just show up and ruin his whole life. It wasn't really a rivalry, but yeah. And then you had the Four Horsemen there with I believe it was Sugar Ray Leonard and Roberto Duran and Thomas Hearns, and those guys all antagonized each other. So you had that, and I think that's something that you definitely need. That some like either a rock paper scissors kind of thing.
Specifically, the sport of the UFC, you had Rousey, had Misha Tate. You've got Anderson Silva had Chael Sonnen, John Jones had Chael Sonnen,
right?
Which was great for me. But you just had that, and then like if you're thinking like big, like in the NBA, the Lakers have the Celtics, the Yankees have the Red Sox. Like you need that opposition, and the thing that like the competition is equal and fair, and the greatness of that team or that individual still exceeded that sort of level playing field. It was like there's something in that person. The Bulls had the Pistons,
right? Or if you want to stay in fighting, Pacquiao had Marquez. They fought 4 times.
And even Mayweather had Pacquiao, even though they never really fought until it was clear that Pacquiao had nothing left in the tank. But that was the name that was floated out against his that entire time.
And I don't know how you do that with the UFC. I think that this is actually where where boxing actually has a strength, I guess, is where you end up having the guys end up being the entities themselves and end up being the sport, because there is no regulation of anything really. Where the UFC is contained, and so it's up to the UFC to make these things true. And you look at a sport like the NFL, which is also very contained, and the NFL does a good job of making these rivalries true, even if they're lopsided and they make no sense. And you couldn't really call the Patriots and the Jets a rivalry historically or recently historically, and yet they're in the division, so they're a rival.
Yeah, it's just one of those things about sports where it's really great to be like a champion and great. But I think of like even recently with the Lynx and the Sparks, or who was it? With women's basketball?
Yes. I believe
the Lynx and the Sparks. And they played, 4 out of the past 5 years?
For the title.
They've just been playing the same team. And it's not that the pool was deeper of teams, or the talent was deeper in that league. It was that we have these faces that we see where they come up every single year, and we know that these players are putting so much into it. And it's that rivalry that shows the greatness on both sides. Like, it's not like either team didn't have moments. It's just one team was a little bit better this year.
This is true. I'm still mad that the Mystics lost in the playoffs. I mean, you go out there, you make a giant trade to get Elena Deladon. You ought to win some games. I'm just upset. Washington postseason.
Basketball player I've ever seen. She's 6'5" and could do almost anything.
Right. She's amazing. I'm just saying the postseason, being a Washington fan in the postseason is not any postseason, any sport. It doesn't matter.
Well, didn't you guys just win in the Nationals? Did Bryce Harper save your season?
He tied the series at 1-1, and then they lost yesterday, so now they're down 2-1 in the series. It's a roller coaster. It's making me upset.
I did see that home run where he hit it off of 1 foot, which is just banana.
Yeah. No, Bryce Harper's scary good. He's scary good.
That's just bananas to me. I never would have. I mean, is it even humanly possible? Are the physics there? Can the body contort in that way? Just fascinating.
Apparently. We have 20 seconds. I'll give you the last word. Anything else that we need to air out?
Go watch Blade Runner 2049.
I have not yet seen it, but I want to see it. I want to see it.
Oh, goodness. Please go watch it. People, Chattanooga, follow suit.
Blade Runner 2049. That's the movie that we're promoting. You've listened to Clutch with Keon Rose here on 92.7 FM, here on Nooga Radio, NoogaRadio.com. Remember, folks, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Stay clutch. I'll see you all in 24 hours. I hope you have a great evening. Later.
The Tennessee